And I'm Ripley.
And this is Comicsplaining.
Hi guys, welcome back. This week we're going to be circling back around to the X-Men. I do have my beer this time.
Yeah, you had a beer. I didn't.
No.
I never do, so that's fine.
It makes me social.
Yeah, I'm like that normally.
Wow, loser.
I know.
So anyway, this is our second week recording apart from one another. I think we've got it down a little more smoothly. We're probably still going to be talking over one another because we can't see the visual cues that the other one is about to talk. So that's unfortunate, but I think it turned out pretty alright last time, so hopefully it's going to work out this time okay. We're going to be circling back around to the X-Men. So our first issue for this week is Tales of Suspense, number 49. We're getting back into those wacky numbers again that I hate. How long is it before Tony gets his own title with his own name on it?
I don't know why you keep asking me these things like I know off the top of my head.
Because I like to put you on the spot.
Yeah, like I remember anything ever.
No, I just like putting you on the spot and making you feel awkward about it. It's great.
Hang on, let me think about it. 37 issues.
37 issues?
Yeah. That's
Which...
100% the real actual number that I didn't just pull out of my ass.
Oh, good. Do we know how far along this is in Tony's run?
I know kind of generally, because here's the thing is, I'm the Thor expert, obviously, but here's the thing.
This is where we get into the part that we each have a couple other separate micro-focuses.
Yeah, so when I was reading the Thor master list, I got to a point, I think at the 70s, I'm not 100% sure, but there's a point of Thor where Stan, just somewhere along the line, decides that Thor and the other Asgardians are going to talk in really bad fake Shakespearean English, and it gets to a point where it's just so dense that it's practically unreadable, and I would read an issue or two and I would get a migraine.
So we got that to look forward to, boys and girls and people who are neither.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. All of this is to say that at some point in the middle of reading Thor, I took a break and started an Iron Man list, which I am still in the 70s for, I think, and have not made any progress on in a couple years. But I do have some frame of reference for this. This was fairly early on because it has his Mark III suit, which is the one that you see for most of the Silver Age comics, but it was like not too long after he made that suit, so I don't know offhand, but it's early.
So this is kind of a special issue. This is a kind of a first for us where we get to an issue that we have both read for various reasons. Candace likes Iron Man, so has read this for Iron Man reasons. I have read this for the X-Men multiple times. And we have argued about it several times.
I'm not sure that we've argued about it so much as talked about it and laughed together.
I have argued about it. I'm very passionate about the fact that Tony's a chump.
Well, I've never disagreed or argued with that fact, so...
Perfect. Well, anyway, this issue is from either 1963 or 1964, depending on which number you're going by, the cover date or the release date. Our writer is Stan the Man, as usual, but we have a new treat this time around. The art is by, and this is the moment you've all been waiting for since I teased it like 2 episodes ago. We finally get an artist that is not Jack Kirby. We have Steve Ditko for 1 episode only. So I'll make some comments on that probably towards the end of this, but I think it's time we just dive right in. So, as we flip the page, you get that kind of thing that we dealt with the Thor comics, where they kind of flash ahead to something that happens, but I don't know if it's necessarily canon. It's just something to get you pumped up and
it's an eye grabber.
Excited. Yeah, the sky is my element, Iron Man. You haven't a chance against me up here.
Yeah, so I just said this was fairly early on in his run because here it says the new Iron Man, so it's gotta be like right after he made that suit.
Does he have an antenna on his shoulder?
Yes.
Does he always have an antenna on his shoulder? Because I've never noticed it before.
With this suit, I believe he usually does. I mean, he also has outlets for nipples, so...
I do know about his nipple ports. It's So anyway, as we flip the page, we see that Tony Stark is conducting some kind of open-air nuclear explosion test in the vicinity of Westchester County. They're not really clear where it is in this comic. Is his facility on Long Island? Because that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, it is on Long Island. It's like a huge complex of factories and offices, and I would assume probably, I don't know, a restaurant maybe.
Okay, so it's not really mentioned in this issue, but that does kind of make sense why Angel would be there. Maybe he was visiting his parents, because parents do live out on Long Island, if I'm remembering correctly. So that makes a little bit of sense for what he was doing there. Why he was doing it in full X-Men costume, who really fucking knows? I mean, it's not like someone's gonna pull out their binoculars and go, holy shit, that's the rich kid that lives down the street. But whatever. Marvel Comics are really weird about the secret identities for quite a while.
Yeah, that's the thing about early Marvel that a lot of people don't expect. And I get this a lot when I'm talking to people because the two characters that I've read the most are Thor and Iron Man, and they're both characters that people didn't expect to have had secret identities.
Because the MCU treats it very differently, and that's where a lot of people come into this from.
So, I mean, the MCU, Tony reveals his secret identity in the first movie, and then Thor is just like...
Thor.
It's not that he...
He's just Thor.
He's not the kind of guy that you would expect to have a secret identity, because that doesn't really make any sense. But they did it in the 60s because that's just what they did.
I kind of get where they were going with Spider-Man, and they actually do get into some decent reasons why he would have a secret identity. It makes sense. But there are a lot of characters in early Marvel where it's like, what? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But I digress. So... Tony Stark is conducting some kind of open-air nuclear explosion test, not far away from the city at all. That makes perfect sense. Let's have a nuclear test near one of the most populated cities in at least the country, not the world. There are a lot that are more populated in the world, but New York's still got quite a few people. So that makes total sense. Not sure why. Not sure what he's up to with that. Warren also, for some reason, is like, he assumes that a guy named Iron Man, that his flesh is like, man, I don't fucking know what the hell is going on. Below, I never thought I'd actually see him in the flesh, if that is flesh.
A lot of people thought that he was a robot in early days. So
so that's where they're going with that. See, I just was going with the fact that Warren isn't always the brightest bulb, and I thought he was just having a blonde moment.
Well, it could be that too.
I just thought he was being dense.
Yeah, the armor is there to hide his lack of skin.
Wow, I can't believe that guy has metal flesh. That's amazing.
I mean, to be fair, there is literally an X-Men with metal flesh, so...
Look, motherfucker, he has skin most of the time! We can't talk about Colossus yet, we will be out of material!
I'm sorry.
So, he thinks that Tony is waving to him just because he's excited to see him. And meanwhile, Tony is just, no, get away! We're about to set off a deadly atomic explosion that we should definitely be setting off here. I'm sure all the rich people that live out on Long Island are super appreciative of this test.
Oh yeah, they love it.
Property values dropping all the time. So he flies up and he's gonna try and warn him away. It's like, he's zooming up to me, probably just as anxious to see me. Boy, wait till I tell the gang at Professor X's about this. You're trying to make me leave, but why? Why don't you just leave then, Angel? No one knows. Like I said, I don't think Warren is necessarily the brightest bulb.
He's just being a big meanie. That's why he wants you to leave.
He just doesn't like me.
No.
Not fair. But in the next split second, it is too late for turning back. Too late for words, for actions, for anything. In that fateful split second, a highly refined nuclear explosion takes place, dangerously close to Iron Man and the Angel. So, first off, I have some questions. So Tony survives this explosion. I want to know how his suit with the open eye holes and the mouth holes protected him, for one. I want to know how the fuck Angel is still alive.
So, this is a great point because, and I kind of feel like I'm using up a lot of my good Iron Man material for when we finish Thor in like 10 years. But
don't worry about it. Everyone will have forgotten about it.
Yeah, everyone will have forgotten, including us. So, the reason why in a lot of early Iron Man comics you can see his eyes and often his teeth through the holes in his mask is because they are open holes. He doesn't put glass or anything in them until much later on in the comics.
Okay, so my assumption that was just his eyes and his mouth was correct.
Yes, it is.
The two of them survived this. And now, we have some other questions, but first, we need to explain that one of the lesser-known side effects of radiation is turning you evil.
Yeah, it completely changes your personality.
So Angel survives this blast, but unluckily, before another instant passes it happens, the subtle dangerous change comes over the Angel. I feel different, as though I'm a new person, a smarter, craftier, slyer person, and yes, I admit it, a far more evil person. That cracks me up. Just the concept of anyone ever just identifying themselves as evil really entertains me, always.
Well, this happens a lot, though. It's like, honestly, it's on par with Stan's version of science. And here we actually see it very well.
Yes.
Like, put next to each other.
I mean, radioactivity in general is one of his best, most misunderstood concepts.
So, Stan does not understand science, and he also doesn't understand, like, human morality. Because a lot of the time, people will just be like, I'm evil, I'm the evilest person ever. When it's like, people who are really bad don't actually think they're evil.
Exactly. The thing I like is, I don't know if you've ever seen the Tumblr post about how, well, if you had to call yourself the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but if you had the opportunity to call yourself the Brotherhood of Evil Gays, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I absolutely would.
Exactly. So maybe it's just for the lulz. For the lulz. How's that for an old-ass meme content?
Fucking Doge over here. Do it for the lulz.
That's so Doge.
That's so Doge.
I love misused memes.
That's so yeet, right, kids?
That sure is yeet.
We're losing the Gen Z demographic even as we speak.
YOLO, am I right, my brother? Okay, so next I want to know how it is that Iron Man jumped to the conclusion that Angel is dashing out of his reach specifically to be a dick, that he knows he's just taunting him. But like, also, I was wondering about what was going on with how the transistors on his suit were going to cut out, but you kind of covered that, so I'm glad, because I was very confused about that right along.
Yeah, so early Iron Man, he couldn't really fly. He only had enough power to do like a short burst to get him off the ground, but he couldn't do sustained flight for actually a very long time. And the best thing about early Iron Man is that the main form of transportation he had were roller skates.
Oh my god, he had roller skates. That's fantastic.
He had Heelys in his boots, and he also had jets. So he had jet-propelled Heelys.
God. But anyway, Tony manages to use this magnetic repeller thing he has to kind of slow himself down, so he only lands hard enough that he doesn't die. Never mind the fact that this whole area should be irradiated, but whatever.
Whatever.
He survived, and all is well, apart from Angel being evil and everything. A segue? I sure think so, because on our next page we find Angel is quitting the X-Men because he's evil now, so he doesn't want to be an X-Men anymore, just for that reason.
I love the faces on this page.
See, I kind of actually like Steve Ditko's take on the X-Men, specifically Cyclops. I don't know, I think it looks neat.
Well, I'm not saying they're bad.
I like Iceman. He looks like he's emoting even though he's just a ball of snow.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
So everyone is pretty surprised with this, and they decide, this actually happens in our next issue too, where they're just like, well, the X-Men don't take no for an answer. It's like, oh, come on, guys. I mean...
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah. So they decide that they have to keep him put until Professor X gets here, which really makes you wonder what Professor X is going to do. JK, we know what Professor X is going to do. So they decide that they're going to fight him, and it's not going all that well. He's kind of cleaning their clocks, which is fairly impressive considering he's just boy with wings. I guess
he has all the power of wings.
I guess the power of evil really is stronger than the power of good. Because it just means you're able to clean the clocks of all your classmates who are fools for sticking on the side of good. So he throws Beast at Cyclops, and we get another idea of Stanley's grasp of science. By flapping my wings at top speed while hovering over the ice, I can melt it away faster than you can form it, and now I'm cutting out of here.
Yeah, because Bobby's response to this situation was just to build an igloo around him, basically.
This'll keep him put forever. It's not like it's just snow.
Yeah.
He'll never escape. At least not until the professor gets his butt in here. Where the fuck is he anyway? This house must be fucking massive if he has not stumbled into this. Or maybe
He can't walk.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I guess maybe he's just used to the kids brawling constantly, because it does happen a lot. So he ollies the fuck out of there, and Tony sets to work fixing his suit because it's all fucked up. He overtaxed the transistors. He shows off a remarkable sense of fashion with the iron arm warmers.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, if he's just wearing this shit under his clothes, isn't that antenna a little obtrusive?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Is he not wearing it under his clothes? Is he wearing a different thing under his clothes?
Most likely he's not wearing clothes.
Oh, he just does all his business naked. That's awkward.
Well, either naked or in his tidy whities with his armor over top. That's a very common thing for Tony to do, actually.
No.
I can't tell you.
That's not what I meant. I meant, like, I thought he was gonna wear this underneath his suit or something. I guess that would be a little obtrusive, now I'm thinking about it.
The breastplate, it stays on all the time in these early days, so he does wear it underneath his clothes. I mean, I'm assuming it's one of those antennas that you can kind of push down.
Maybe it's got an up-down button like my parents' old car used to have.
Yes.
Maybe that's what the nipple ports are for.
Oh my god.
You just press whichever way you want the antenna to go.
You just twist it and it goes...
So Angel ollies the fuck out, and the X-Men are left to have to explain this to Professor X. Professor X is like, okay, well my plan is to tell him to come back.
Oh, that's gonna work.
Yeah. Return at once. This is an unqualified order.
What does that mean?
I don't think he's actually using English correctly, truth be told.
An unqualified order. That doesn't mean anything.
I get what they're going for, but it doesn't make sense. So he decides that not only is he leaving the X-Men, he's joining the evil mutants because he's evil now. Evil, I tell you,
sure.
Evil! Also, fuck you, Dad. Professor X calls the Avengers, but they've all got better shit to do.
As always. I love in this Avengers picture, they're all just kind of, like, posing, and Iron Man is just in the background standing there.
He's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And he's wondering what's up with all the posing.
Yeah.
I guess Thor's got a decent excuse. He's being a doctor. He's making his rounds at Municipal Hospital. So, he is affiliated with a hospital.
I don't know, okay? I don't know.
Okay. Whatever. Tony is doing his business at work, just shooting the shit with Pepper and Happy, and then he actually did get the call, unlike everyone else who was too busy, had more important shit to do.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I guess it's time to get dressed back up as... Okay, but in this picture where he's... Maybe it just springs up. I'm still caught up on the antenna here. Because in this picture where he's...
really tripping you up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I never noticed it before now.
Because when it literally is right there poking out from his shirt, so...
Maybe it's just like a spring, and as soon as it's freed from its cloth prison...
Oh my god. This Nintendo's fucking wild. This is the biggest plot hole of the entire history of Marvel Comics.
I've never noticed it before. But anyway, he feels a little bit of guilt over the fact that this has happened. Apparently before this, he was going to shrug and call it a day on the whole evil teenager thing. But now that someone has asked him, he'll do it, and he'll do it by himself. He's not gonna find out what the Avengers are up to. He'll take care of it.
Guilt and also doing things himself without asking for help is like Tony's entire deal.
I think he should rock this look done on the bottom panel all the time, with just like one bare leg and one bare arm. I think that's kind of a look.
It is. You're right.
Also, the whole flip around thing where people just suddenly turn to evil makes me think of Axis a little bit, but thinking of Axis just makes me fucking exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, in Axis it was a little bit more nuanced, even.
A little bit. I have issues with Axis. We'll handle that when we get there.
Yeah.
Angel, who has decided that he is going to join up with the evil mutants, now has to figure out with every little brain cell he's got in that pea brain how the fuck he's going to make this happen.
Oh my god. You're so mean to him.
I don't even dislike...
Brain.
God. You say I'm mean to him and then you immediately call him a bird brain.
Yes.
Okay, but like, you think that I'm being mean to him, but his plan to let the evil mutants find him is to steal dynamite by some kind of blasting pit in New York City, which doesn't seem right to me, but maybe they do use TNT in a massively populated island for construction. Fuck if I know. If any of you are construction experts, please let me know. Would they use TNT in a populated city for construction? If I'm wrong, I will own up to it. Send your comments to comicsplaining@gmail.com. We'll read it on air and I will own up to it.
This is weirdly intense.
So Angel steals TNT and just starts throwing it around the city. He throws it at buildings, he throws it in the water, and he's like, well, that'll surely let the evil mutants know where I am. Not sure what his thought process was on that. I kind of thought it was a little ridiculous, but on the next page we find that it did work, but the wary evil mutants, recognizing the Angel, suspect a trap and do not show themselves. So maybe Angel is more with it than I know.
That's clearly the secret way to contact them. Like, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are like, if you ever need to get in touch with us, just throw some dynamite into the ocean and we'll be there.
It's not even the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I did say that earlier, but I was wrong. Because the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants has not even been established yet. He just wants random evil mutants to find him.
Oh.
It's whatever. I don't know. We've seen Magneto and the Vanisher, who doesn't remember who he is. Maybe he's talking about some of the other evil mutants we haven't run into yet. Who fucking knows?
I guess.
So, Iron Man tells the cops he's gonna handle the situation before they shoot this kid to pieces, which, like, I guess it's good that that hadn't happened before this, but how long were they gonna let him just throw TNT around? I'm really kinda wondering. Tony takes off, and he sets to work trying to get Angel to come back down to Earth, or stop throwing dynamite, or be reasonable in any way, shape, or form.
You come down here, young man.
Don't make me come up there. But he did. This doesn't work all that well, because apparently you can just grab Tony's legs and flip him upside down, and that's all it takes. That'll show you.
His one weakness, being upside down.
Now he's rocketing towards the ground. Only Tony is, I will give him credit, at least smart enough to stop rocketing towards the ground.
Oh yeah, the reason why this is bad is because Tony's boot jets are still on. So when he turns him upside down, he's just, like, jetting straight into the pavement.
So good on him on not jetting straight into the pavement.
Yeah, very smart on his end.
So he manages to wrestle Angel back to the ground by grappling him a few times. And now they're running around LaGuardia Airport, flying around different hangars and stuff. After Iron Man, unfortunately, releases his grasp for just a moment, Angel manages to fly away into a hangar. But little does Angel know, Tony has powerful transistor magnets, and he throws them and locks him in this hangar with his mighty, mighty magnets.
Yeah.
Which kind of backfires because Tony goes in to check up on him, and he immediately flies out the door and locks Tony inside.
Okay, that's really dumb on Tony's end, honestly.
No fucking kidding. And he locks the door, so Tony is stuck inside. A fine thing, the dreaded Iron Man locked up in a storage building.
The dreaded Iron Man.
And that's not really a word I'd choose to use for a superhero, but whatever. So I guess he manages to somehow get his fingers around the edge of the door and just kind of yanks the door back open. Whew, that was a strain even for me. His one weakness, door. Angel has not left the scene. He's just hanging out on top of a water tower.
Egg.
It does look suspiciously egg-like. Apparently he thought Iron Man was just defeated. Tony comes at Angel again, and the two of them fly up into the air. High up into the air, even higher than before. Even higher than when they were having that nuclear test and his boot jets cut out. And, shockingly, his boot jets cut out.
This is an astounding example of Tony risking his life for absolutely no reason, which is a common theme.
This is actually his plan, though, which is kind of ridiculous. I do like the melodrama that Tony gets to when he's plummeting to Earth. It's too bad I wasn't able to help the Angel. The police are sure to shoot him down as soon as he flies within range. Which again, I'm like, why the fuck didn't they before? Not that I'm complaining, but I am baffled. Wish I could think of an immortal last sentence to say, but all I feel like shouting is help! Just another few seconds and it'll all be over. I kinda wish I could have said goodbye to Pepper and Happy. You're just gonna sit here and muse to yourself, huh? Angel's just sitting here kind of watching this happen, and it turns out this may have been Tony's plan all along. See, his morality is slowly returning when he's sitting here shocked at Tony, about to become a fucking road pancake.
Ew.
It's not my fault. I didn't ask him to try to battle me. All I have to do is close my eyes and wait another few seconds, then it'll be over for him. Forever. But he can't. And he makes himself as aerodynamic as he can to go and save Tony, which he does a little bit before he smacks onto the ground. So Tony is rescued, and he makes it clear that this was his plan all along.
Yeah, that's a straight up lie. I know Tony Stark, and his idea was just that he was gonna die, because he's got the biggest death wish of any fucking superhero you've ever met.
See, I kind of thought it was ridiculous, too. It just kind of seemed like, okay, well, how could you have possibly known that what he was going to do was fly super high up in the air again and drop? How could you have known that was going to be his plan? His million-step plan for redeeming Angel. And then Angel will definitely feel his morals flip and hopefully save me. And then he will be fixed.
I mean, even if that was his plan, some part of him had to accept very real possibility that he would die.
This was a really bad plan. I knew my power jets would fail when I reached a certain height, but I had to do it to make you save me, to prove to the police and to yourself that you're not evil. Well, glad that worked out for you. Imagine if it hadn't.
Yeah, well.
But I really like
any Iron Man movies.
Yeah. It baffles me that Tony's conclusion is also that this was just radiation-induced evil. This is just a commonly known thing.
Well, he's a scientist, so he knows all about radiation-induced evil, obviously.
He wasn't really to blame for his actions, Chief. He was affected by some atomic rays at a test conducted by Anthony Stark at his weapons plant. The rays affected his brain for a time, until now, but I really like better than that Angel's reaction. So that's the answer. I should have guessed. Why would you have guessed that? That's an absurd thing to guess.
Yeah.
It's like, well, day is saved. Without the narration, there's no way in hell that I would have guessed why he was suddenly evil, but I guess he's back. So he joins back up to the X-Men, and Professor X contacts Tony telepathically. Is like, I'm gonna repay this debt someday. And everybody is happy. The day is saved. Happily ever after. Professor X demands that they go back to class or they'll get some demerits or something. How dare you be late for class again? Don't do it!
Fucking kids.
Get off my lawn and into the classroom! So, anyway, I kind of like Steve Ditko's take on the X-Men. They have some personality. I don't know how to explain what it is I like about it, but I just kind of like his take on them. But Tony looks really skinny and weird.
Yes, he definitely does. He looks twiggy.
It's not so bad, like, in his businessman persona, because that seems like it makes a degree of sense. He still seems kind of skinny for a grown man, but some people are just built that way. I can deal with that, and that's why I think it works really well on the X-Men, because they're a bunch of skinny teenagers. It works.
Yeah, but you'd think the armor would add at least a little bit of bulk, even though this armor specifically is made to be skin tight.
Fit underneath his clothing.
Yeah, but you'd think it would add a little bit.
Right. I just feel like he should be more bulky. Did he always look that skinny?
No, not always.
Just when Ditko's drawn him, huh?
Yep.
So that was Tales of Suspense number 49. And now I have to come to our usual question. Is Tony a chump for getting punked by a kid with the power of only having wings?
Yes, I've never disagreed with this.
I always felt like you disagreed with me on this. You said he was trying to be nice. I'm like, he was trying to be nice. He got his fucking clock cleaned.
He was trying to be nice and he got his clock cleaned.
Well, I suppose that's a fair compromise. That is Tales of Suspense number 49.
Sure is.
Book continues on to something that has nothing to do with our heroes. Either of them.
Oh, yeah. Tales of the Watcher.
I'm not reading that.
The Saga of the Sneepers.
Absolutely not. If you want to give me a rundown of the Saga of the Sneepers, go ahead, but I'm not listening because the story sucks. That's the best you could do, Sneepers.
Sneepers.
So for our second issue for this episode, we are going to actually return back to our main title, X-Men number 3. It's another one that's on the cusp of 1963 to 1964. So early X-Men didn't actually publish quite as regularly as some books. I'm trying to remember if it was quarterly or what. I feel like it was quarterly, but time doesn't pass quite as quickly with the early X-Men. Not for a little bit. Eventually it does go monthly, I think. But this one's another one that's right between 63 and 64 with the release date and the cover date. Our writer is Stan the Man, as usual. But now that we're back on the X book, we are back with Jack Kirby on the art.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to spoil anything, but in this issue, the X-Men are going to face their most fearsome foes yet, Carnies.
Carnies.
But we'll get to them in time. We open on the X-Men practicing in the Danger Room, aka Professor Xavier coming up with bizarre tests for his teenagers. He's very proud to note that Cyclops' reaction time has speeded up 3% since the last week, and as such, he's earned a reprieve of having sawdust-filled bags launched at his face. Of course, the last time we saw someone earn a break, it was just so Beast could launch a bowling ball at him by surprise, so watch out, Cyclops.
Look out, Slim.
No, he's not Slim anymore. He was Slim very briefly, but now he's just back to being Scott.
That's his name in the first issue. They can't change it now.
No, he's Scott now. There's nothing you can do about it.
He's Slim Summers. That's his name forever.
I really like the fact that the people they have catching... I mean, like, I guess I can understand why Iceman and Angel should catch things, but shouldn't Jane definitely be catching things? Because I feel like that would be a great test for her. So on the next page, we discover several things. We discover that the professor is kind of concerned about how grim Scott is, his mental state. I think that's fairly understandable on the surface, and it only gets more understandable as we go on. He's very grim for a teenage boy. I think it kind of makes sense. He's terrified that he's gonna hurt someone. But I think it's also reasonable for Professor X to be concerned about it. He's worried about his anxiety, which is kind of a nice gesture considering Professor X is kind of a piece of shit with regards to Scott. It's complicated. I'll get further into it. Don't get me started because I will spend the rest of this episode just bitching about how Professor X mistreats Scott, and we're not even anywhere near most of the shit.
Okay, I promise I won't get you started on it.
It would be so easy.
I know.
But we also learn on this panel another important fact, that Hank is allergic to sawdust. It's a very important detail that will definitely never come up again.
Wait, so he's allergic to trees?
No, only sawdust.
I feel like probably anyone could sneeze and have, like, allergies due to sawdust, but it's just, like, ground up wood.
I know, right? So like often happens in early X-Men comics, Bobby's slight breaking of the bag of sawdust open on Hank will not go unavenged. And what starts as an issue between the two of them quickly escalates into a brawl between the four boys. Though this time the professor is not pleased by it and quickly breaks it up for Jean's important training of levitating a block through an obstacle course of various shaped holes. Very challenging. It's not fully clear why she wasn't catching sawdust-filled bags before, like Warren and Bobby. Or helping load the sawdust bags into the machine, like Hank.
I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a side note. This thing reminds me of a game I had when I was a kid that was like, you had a little prong and you had to pass it through a metal maze, and if you touched the sides it would shock you.
Is this like Operation but a maze?
Yeah, but a maze, and also instead of making a loud noise it would shock you.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck kind of game is this?
It was terrible. I never played it.
What? No shit. What was it called?
I don't remember. It was like some bullshit.
That's a great name for a game.
I know.
So, she gets the very thrilling challenge of moving a small block around through an obstacle course. But even though she's improved, there's no time to dwell on that, as the professor has sensed another mutant. He quickly orders the X-Men into their street clothes to go find the new mutant. The boys take a moment to horn dog out, with Warren hoping that the new mutant is a female, and Hank quickly deciding that the first one dressed gets to escort Jean. They quickly break into competition over the matter, with not a one of them bothering to ask. Warren doesn't really stand a chance, as he has to bind his wings. Not exactly fair.
Well, you know, you gotta take time to bind properly.
It's
Otherwise you
important.
can seriously hurt yourself.
It's important, but I still think it was kind of a dick move to make that the race.
Yeah.
He was never gonna win that.
No. What the fuck is Scott wearing this page?
Scott's got just an awful fashion sense. Even though it's not really fully established, because they don't really start drawing his sunglasses as red for a little while, but he can't really see colors, even though this hasn't been established. You would think that the professor would at least help the poor boy dress. When he takes this orphan boy out shopping, say, maybe not the red plaid suit, Scott. Maybe black. I think
Maybe
black
something
would...
normal.
I think that would suit you much better, my boy.
Yeah. No, Professor X would never be that kind.
So he just lets him dress like a clown in a red plaid suit.
Red plaid suit. That's ridiculous.
It's absolutely absurd. So Bobby and Hank break into a race for who gets to team up with her, both of them rushing past Scott, who is moping. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Because first, I want to talk about this race some more.
Oh, boy.
Unfortunately for both of them, Jean decides, nuts to them, she's teaming up with Scott.
As is, you know, her right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Apparently none of them have caught on that she's kind of all about this boy, like, even just through this issue, her body language towards Scott. This includes Scott, who was just a panel earlier, lamenting that he could never ask her out because of his terrible eyes. Like she isn't also a mutant, and the two of them aren't in a school specifically for mutants. Like, it would bother her at all.
She's into the dark and brooding types, obviously.
This is a really stupid reason not to get together. She's all over him. She's hanging on his arm. Not even for the first time this comic. Like, boy, she's into you.
Early Marvel is all about mutual pining for no reason.
It really is. There's also, unfortunately, a very unpleasant thought bubble in which Professor X also implies that he loves Jean.
Ooh.
Yeah. The good news is that while I won't say it never happens again, we don't have to see or think about it for quite a while. But even just this is enough to go, ugh. Yeah. But, unfortunately for both Scott and Jean, and whoever won that race between Hank and Bobby, I think Bobby, last place in the race, swoops into first, with Warren literally swooping Jean into his arms and dashing the pair of them off to his car. You win this round, Worthington. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. But she just rolls with it, and Professor X sets them to work, scouring about town for the new mutant that he sets. Is it this guy setting fire to paper with just a wave of his hand? Alas, no. He has a magnifying glass. What about this gent floating in midair? But the answer would seem to be no again. Just some guy standing on some impossibly clear glass meant to protect a sign, which isn't something I've ever heard of before, but any of you signage historians out there listening, shoot us an email at comicsplaining@gmail.com to tell me why I'm right or wrong.
Oh my god!
How
many emails do you want?
Any more than the none we've gotten.
That's fair. So I wasn't aware that one of Beast's powers was that he could walk on walls. Which is making me question just how many people can do that.
Yeah, he apparently just kind of digs his toes in and crunches the brick or whatever so he can hold on. It's kind of awful.
It's really gross.
It's
gross.
Wretched. He did it last issue too, but we didn't really dwell on it much because I'd prefer not to think about his nasty toes.
Oh god.
I hate that one of his superpowers is just having big feet. Truly loathe it. So, I guess he very inconspicuously climbed the side of this building for nothing.
I guess.
As a side note, it really drives me nuts with early comics, how they'll just say it's dusk or evening or something, but it still looks like noon, midday.
Well, yeah, because they don't fully color the backgrounds, so even if they draw a background, the sky is completely white.
Supposedly, one of the reasons it's fine for him to climb the building is because it is dark enough that people probably won't notice.
Why are these guys doing construction work at nighttime then?
I was really wondering that myself, but, well, you know how construction works. We have open-air blasting pits in the middle of the city, and we put up signs at night.
Yeah.
What do we know? Well, perhaps the third time is the charm. Scott spots a carny shooting a target without even looking. Impressive. And the professor does say the mental emanations are nearby, but no. It's just a con to fool unsuspecting rubes. There's another guy hiding out underneath the table, shooting the target for him. But a nearby carnival barker announces to the crowd that a show is starting soon with the man called the Blob. Eureka! We've found our mutant at last.
Yeah.
You too could pay money to get a chance to meet some fat guy.
Oh, God.
Men have been known to faint when the Blob performs. Pay money to see him. He doesn't say what he does, just pay money to meet him. Though admittedly, once the show begins, it is revealed that his power is not just being a fat guy. At least there's that. A bunch of guys try and fail to even budge him, but it doesn't work. Not even with $100 on the line. Another carny shoots the Blob with a rifle a few times, but he just pops the shells back out like it's nothing. Even though I'm pretty sure that's not actually how bullets fire, and the shells are ejected.
Yes.
But I digress.
Yes.
Maybe that's why it works, because these are real bullets and they're not doing the right thing.
Oh, God.
It's just like a potato gun, where they just shoot the whole bullet out.
Yeah, I don't think the casings are supposed to do that, but, you know...
They aren't.
They're not supposed to be shooting people anyway,
So Scott marvels that it's no wonder that the professor wants to recruit him before the evil mutants do. With how powerful he is, he could resist being attacked. He's too powerful.
That's his main power, in fact.
He's too powerful. what would they do? They would attack him and nothing would happen. So Scotty Boy breaks out every social skill he has to lead with the line that the X-Men want to see him and won't take no for an answer.
Oh, boy.
Warren and Jean arrive to defuse the situation a little, probably wishing they'd gotten there a little more quickly, as poor Scott has the social skills of a brick wall. As an autistic person, it's things like this that make him kind of resonate with me. The fact that he just goes full bore into this, thinking that this is the thing, this is the level everyone is on, and this is gonna work. That's another one of...
He's doing his best.
Yeah, that's another one of my headcanons. This one is actually, I think, pretty well supported, though I'm gonna just have to be pointing this out to you guys as I go for the rest of time. I think it's pretty well supported with other clips throughout this series.
I agree.
Scott is on the autism spectrum, no matter what Marvel says about it. The three of them bring the Blob back to Westchester to test the extent of his abilities. I gotta say, I kind of appreciate the fact that the Blob just kind of owns it. I know it's another one of a long chain of fat guys being the villain, or like the power of a fat person being related to being fat, and that's definitely questionable, but like, as a fat person, it's nice to see a fat character that isn't like ashamed of it, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, fuck yeah, I'm awesome, when they're testing him. He's kind of all about it. He's not ashamed of his body or anything. It would be definitely a better message from a fat woman, because, like, the degree of fat shaming that women face is pretty heavy, but, like, men get it too. So, like, I just kind of appreciate on some level that he's just large and in charge, even with those caveats there that I think are important to note.
Oh yeah, good for him, man.
He's just kind of owning it.
Good.
After he turns down an offer to join the X-Men, the professor, who hadn't thought this all out before this, immediately panics and wants to resort to the good old memory wipe. Wants to give this boy the Vanisher treatment again.
Oh boy.
You can't just leave knowing where we live, even though we chose to bring you here. So he sicks the X-Men on him. They just throw down for a bit, trying to stop him from leaving. Doesn't go all that well. The Beast gets really thrown for a loop in particular. After they fight for a bit, the Blob escapes down a manhole and heads back to the circus.
As any normal person would, I guess.
I'm sure this will never come back to haunt our heroes, the fact that he escapes. Really not clear why the professor didn't just brainwipe him like he did with the Vanisher, and instead insisted that they have to go back to his lab before he could. But now he's come to the conclusion that this was a mistake.
You think?
So they have to give it another go. But it doesn't work long range, so they have to find him first. Luckily for them, that's not going to be much of a problem, because the Blob is planning on attacking the X-Men before they can attack him.
You know, he's being proactive. I support it.
So he rallies his co-workers together, gets the Carnage together into a fighting force to attack the X-Men with his newly known mutant might. He threatens his old boss, like, you're gonna come and I'm gonna rule the world! The power of the Blob. Yeah, sure, Jan.
Yeah, I like how he was cool before, but now immediately he's like, I'm gonna take over the world. Like, why? You were just chilling before.
I almost get if he was going to be like, well, maybe I'll use this for crimes. I mean, I don't think it's a good choice, but it would be a choice that makes some crumb of sense, as opposed to, now I'm going to conquer the world with all my powers of being hard to attack.
Yeah, basically.
Again, sure, Jan.
Sure.
So Angel is flying reconnaissance on the Carnival and flies back to inform the professor of the upcoming attack. Charles is working on a machine so he can erase the memories of the event from the entire crowd as his fuck-up continues to compound itself.
Oh my god.
And Warren sets off to inform his classmates to perform for battle. Hank is confident, in particular, that he'll be changed before Warren even leaves the room. This leads me to question a few things. Is Warren a very slow walker? Is he very distractible? Does he plan to make Warren wait before he closes the door? Is Hank just that speedy? Not clear.
Hank is reading a book with his toes.
It's awful. I prefer not to dwell on it.
I really don't like all of the foot play with Hank. It's very unsettling.
It will never go away.
Thanks for putting your foot fetish in this comic, I guess.
It will never go away. We will be seeing this forever.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait.
So Bobby was apparently eating ice cream in his room, and he gets chewed out over it by Warren after a claim that he was studying a problem and keeping food refrigerated. Honestly, kind of fair to chew him out over because that's a really bad excuse.
Yeah.
Before he even has a chance to change into his uniform, though, a giraffe sticks its head in through the window and eats his ice cream. The first casualty in the ex-Carney War.
No!
The Carnies charge the door, but are quickly repelled by Marvel Girl and Cyclops. Some tightrope walkers attempt to climb the phone lines or something. I'm not entirely sure what they're walking on, because they seem to have their own platform. I'm not sure if they, put a grappling hook over to the house or what.
In the previous panel, they did throw a grappling hook.
I missed that. God, how did I miss that? Well, anyway.
You see the grappling hook, and they say grappling hook.
Because I'm a dumbass. Shut up. I still have some questions about this plan anyway. So they're going to climb over to the roof and then somehow find their way into the house? Are they going to squeeze down the chimney?
Yeah.
Are they just going to stomp a hole through the roof? I feel like there's a flaw in this plan. Okay, you're on the roof, what now?
They're just gonna Assassin's Creed their way into the building.
Oh my god. But it doesn't matter because even beyond those questions, the plan doesn't really account for Beast, who pretty quickly shuts the pair of them down. I think you'll notice in this comic, actually, that where Hank was before just kind of generic, tough guy, not too well-spoken, his verbosity is kind of developed here.
Yeah.
But he employs this while he's fighting a gorilla that has been set on him.
Of course.
It's not quite to the extremes that it'll reach later, like he gets wordier as we go, but it's starting to show. We shift over away from this gorilla fight to the cowboy that shot the Blob earlier during the show trying to lasso Angel. Strike 3 for the Carnies, I'm afraid. We're one ice cream down for the X-Men, several Carnies down for the Carnies. What I'm saying is they need a win, and they finally get one when the flying Zambubas are shot out of a cannon and knock Warren out of the air.
I'm sorry, the flying Zambubas?
I like that one of them is named even more ridiculously Svenzaldo Zambuba. That's sure a name.
Those are some names.
I'm assuming that's their last name. So that Svenzaldo's last name is Zambuba. So anyway, a man mounted atop an elephant charges Iceman, Marvel Girl, and Cyclops. Scott takes care of that with an eye blast. But kind of like in that fight in the first issue with Magneto, the amount of energy it takes to kind of knocks him out of the fight for a while. Shortly after that, some guys in insulated suits managed to knock Iceman down as well. So the odds are starting to even out for the Carnies a little, just by sheer numbers. Professor X is just watching helplessly, just trying to get this gadget finished in time to erase everyone's memory. But soon by sheer numbers, even Marvel Girl is overwhelmed. I like that she's not the first one down, and I like that the Carnies are impressed that she fights like an army, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Scott zaps his way out of the net that they put him in while he was down, seeming to have found his strength again. I really gotta wonder why they decided a fucking net was the best way to contain him. Maybe you considered regular ropes where he can't get his hands on his fucking visor. Apparently not.
No, never.
So he manages to bring the Blob down a peg by showing him that while he might be immovable, the ground underneath him is not. I kind of like that. I think it's fun.
That's clever.
I think that's very Scott. But his freedom is short-lived as a bunch of generic thugs just put a bag over his head.
Yikes.
And they tie him up. So this is definitely a better plan than the net.
Yeah.
Soon, even the Beast is put in check. Even after he beat the gorilla, he was somehow stopped by a human pyramid. Somehow this was enough to bring him down.
Yeah, cheerleaders.
So they're all tied up, including Scott with a bag over his head.
Oh my god.
I really don't know why the Blob insists on threatening to melt Iceman by putting, a flaming lasso or something over his head. He's already tied up.
Maybe he thinks that melting him will kill him, like Frosty the Snowman.
That's probably it. That's probably where he got the idea.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why the Blob insists on doing that, but that's where we're at. So the Carnies charge the house, ready to attain final victory so that all the secrets, the powers of the X-Men will be mine. The whole human race will bow down to the Blob. Again, sure, Jan.
Sure.
So the professor telepathically tells Jean to use her telekinesis to remove her blindfold. I'm a little disappointed that she didn't figure this out on her own, but
yeah, a little bit.
I can dismiss this because I love that the next part of the plan is for her to use her telekinesis to fetch a knife from Sharpo, the world's greatest knife thrower's wagon.
Sharpo!
And she frees herself with a knife. So that's like kind of badass enough to at least slightly weigh that out on the other side to the point that it doesn't bother me. So they quickly rise to the professor's defense, and they wrap a large portion of the thugs up in canvas and drop the blob down a hole Scott blasted before making short work of the rest. Finally, Charles finishes his work on the intensifier, and he wipes the event of everyone's minds, toot sweet, as he loves to do. One of his favorite hobbies, brain wiping.
Yeah, this is becoming a pattern with him, and I'm honestly a little concerned about it.
It's fairly concerning. There's a lot to say about Charles Xavier. I want you to think back for a moment to kindly Grandpa Patrick Stewart, Professor X.
God, I miss him.
He only gets worse. So I do want to note that this all wraps up in the span of like 2 pages.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how these early comics generally are. They spend so long ramping it up and doing the fight that they end up having to do the conclusion like super fast.
Right. They hadn't quite gotten to the whole making it serialized yet, to the point where like, well, we can just pick up where we left off next issue. No, everything has to be a contained single story. Even though it's not my favorite pacing, some of the Silver Age stuff, I do feel like the beginning and the middle of the issue kind of went okay.
Yeah.
Things had a flow to it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then the X-Men are free, and then they quickly take out all of the rest of the thugs with no pomp or circumstance. It's just done.
Even though they got beat earlier, this time they're good.
Yeah. And our happily ever after is that the Blob is forever doomed to live out the rest of his days as a performing circus monkey for anyone who just wants a laugh or a scream.
Oh no, he's doing the same job he was doing before.
I still feel like kind of bad that this is our happily ever after.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little fucked up.
A little bit. Just want to see him large and in charge and owning it again.
Yeah.
Bring back confident Blob. So that was X-Men number 3.
Well, it was exciting.
So I gotta ask, what are you thinking about our adventures with the X-Men so far?
It's about what I expected. The one thing I'm surprised by is that there wasn't really like an origin issue. There's no explanation of who Xavier is and why he's doing this and where the other kids came from. I assume that's going to come later, but it's just a little jarring because most of the time they have that up front.
Yeah, we do get into that in a little bit in some of the Beast stories in some comics in a while, but they really do just start off, they're already at school, they're mostly already X-Men ready to go, though we do catch them for their first real big mission with everyone together.
Yeah, and also I like how Professor X is constantly telling them to get to class, but the only thing we've seen Professor X, quote-unquote, teaching them is how to fight each other. Which begs the question, are they doing math class or something ever?
Yeah, that's surprisingly never really touched on. Like, to the point that it has to be touched on in later stories that are kind of flashback stories, the X-Men First Class stories that were written in, like, the 2000s that kind of flash back to the early X-Men, where we see there's, like, a computer teaching them how to do math and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, all we see is that they're supposedly like part of this fancy schmancy private school and all they do is just learn how to fight. Which, says, there's a lot to get into with that. Just by concept of the fact that they're teenagers and what he's mostly focusing on is teaching them to fight for his cause. There's a lot to get into with that, but I don't know that we have the time today.
Alright, something that I wanted to talk about is the fact that the X-Men are coming to the MCU, and people have a lot of feelings about that. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the fact that Disney owns every single piece of media in the world, on this podcast at least, but I figured we could approach it from kind of a lighter fandom perspective, because I keep seeing articles about what they're doing, and I don't know if you saw, but Kevin Feige confirmed that Deadpool 3... What?
Isn't it Feige?
No, it's Feige.
Okay.
He confirmed that Deadpool 3 is going to be part of the MCU.
That's
and it's going to have Ryan...
confusing.
Yeah, it's going to have Ryan Reynolds in it, so they're just folding that in.
I suppose if they're gonna pull that with anything, they could probably get away with that with Deadpool and just make a joke about it.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. It's probably kind of good that they're doing that because, you know, the Deadpool franchise, I guess, is already well established. People like the direction that it's been going so far.
That raises a lot of questions for me, like what they're gonna do with that, though, because I guess I can see maybe the approach of pulling some almost Into the Spider-Verse shit where he just swaps universes. But, like, if you just take the Deadpool movies as is with the whole canon, that becomes really difficult to separate from the XMCU, which I don't want canon.
Yeah, well, I think it would kind of be funny if he, like, talked to one of the X-Men and he was like, oh, the X-Men, weird how you've never showed up before. Not the X-Men, the Avengers, rather.
That could almost be funny, or just like, wow, you look totally different from the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
There are things they could do that would be funny, but I do have to wonder.
What?
Just how they're gonna go about it, because just going as is without any kind of framing device, it would make it very strange, because even in the last Deadpool movie we see, or was it the first one? I don't know. We see a whole bunch of X-Men, and it just raises a lot of questions, so I wonder if they're gonna do some alternate universe shit or just act like it's nothing. Or retitle it to just Deadpool again. It was still kind of so. I don't know. I haven't been reading these articles.
All we can really do is wait and see, but that makes the most sense for them to bring in directly. But one other thing that I did see is that Marvel Studios is in talks with Patrick Stewart to come back as Professor X.
I take back every complaint. No, that's silly. I don't take back every complaint, but I have a soft spot for Patrick Stewart.
I know, everyone does. He's a delight.
And, like, I'll admit that part of this is the fact that I grew up when Star Trek The Next Generation was still kind of on the tail end of its run. And I watched on UPN so much Star Trek The Next Generation that I just have this massive soft spot for that whole series. So, seeing Patrick Stewart gives me the warm fuzzies.
I know. It would be cool if they could get him again.
Considering the fact that he's older, I think that could make a very interesting approach to the X. They don't really say it much in these comics we've been reading, but he's supposedly not all that much older than the X-Men, though I don't really buy it. But, like, when he's kind of an even older gentleman, I can almost see how that would be his type of philanthropy, his kind of giving back, starting a school for kids like him as an older gentleman. That almost, like, kind of works.
Yeah, I think it could definitely work if he wants to do it. I don't really know what they're gonna do, even with bringing the X-Men in. I guess they could completely go at it like it's a brand new thing, like, oh hey, stuff's going down, and also we just discovered that mutants exist.
Yeah.
That is an option.
Or some kind of weird unforeseen repercussions of fucking with time and shit.
Yeah, maybe.
With regards to the Infinity Gauntlet saga.
Well, maybe because we've jumped, 5 years ahead, I think? Maybe that's something that happened in those years that we didn't see.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. That could be something. It's some kind of repercussion of the shit that happened that no one really anticipated.
I do have to wonder if they're going to retcon the Scarlet Witch.
Oh, God.
To be a mutant.
God, I don't want to think about the Scarlet Witch.
I know. It's messy.
It's so messy, because even if you ignore... Oh, God. The Scarlet Witch is complicated. I'd rather talk about how much I hate the Maximoff retcon.
Yeah, okay.
Well, no. I'm not saying we should. But the whole thing with the Scarlet Witch and her ties to Magneto, but then Marvel retconned it so that Magneto was not actually their parents. So Magneto shows up. Do they make Magneto their father again, or do we just go with the retcon and Magneto is in no way related to Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch? Even ignoring all the gross whitewashing shit, even ignoring the fact that they volunteered to be tested on by Nazis, it gets so fucking messy.
Yeah.
When you start wanting to tie in MCU Scarlet Witch over to the X-Men.
Yes. Well, the reason why they retconned Magneto being their father in the first place was all because of that annoying thing they do in the comics where they try to make things, like, tailored to the movies, because they didn't have movie rights to the X-Men, but they had movie rights to the Scarlet Witch and whatnot, so they wanted to separate her from the mutants, I guess.
Yeah, man, oh man. At this point, even though I prefer not to, in the comics, have Magneto and Pietro and Wanda separated and not related. At this point in the MCU, I think it would be better if we just call that a lost cause and show Magneto with his long-lost daughter, Lorna Dane.
Yeah.
Right, Polaris.
Green-haired Amora.
Oh my god, not everyone is Amora.
They look exactly the same, Ripley.
You said that Wanda was Green Amora.
If she's wearing green, then she has the same outfit.
Not everyone who is wearing green is Amora.
I know not everyone who's wearing green is Amora, but it's the exact same, like, style and cut, and they have the same stupid head thingy. It's the same.
I hate the head thingy. And they'll call it a tiara. They'll call it a tiara, and I'm like, bitch, where?
Yeah. So, this is kind of a complicated question. Maybe I should have prompted you beforehand so you could think about it more, but
Hit me.
In a perfect... What?
Hit me.
Okay. In a perfect world, what would be your casting for the X-Men in the MCU?
Oh god, don't do this to me.
I did it. I did it already.
I
I'm sorry.
said hit me, and then you hit me. I don't know celebrities.
Yeah, I know.
I can't identify any of them. I don't know who's up and coming or the hot thing. So, like, boy, oh boy, I don't have any answers.
Well, who from the XMCU would you bring over?
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart.
Ryan Reynolds, which I've already said they're doing.
Yes.
I didn't really have any beef with the guy they had as Colossus. He didn't do much.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed fine.
He was Russian.
He sure was. Nobody from the New Mutants.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought the girl who was Rain actually did a pretty good job with it, but, like, I would rather just... If they're doing the X-Men, you've got to think that the New Mutants would be way down the line, so, like, by that point, she hopefully wouldn't even be old enough to really take the role.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, Patrick Stewart, and Russian guy.
Yeah.
Don't even actually know if he's Russian.
What about, the guy who played Cyclops?
There are, like, two guys who played Cyclops.
The first one.
I would hope that Cyclops would be younger than James Marsden is now.
Oh, that's fair.
I don't necessarily have a problem with him, and supposedly I think he loved the role, but I would hope that the 05 X-Men would be younger, or even if they're going for more of the later X-Men team-ups, like the Uncanny team, I would still hope that they'd be younger than that.
Yeah.
More of a fresh face. So it's nothing against James Marsden, I just hope that they'd go for someone a little younger than that.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That makes sense.
Even though I'm a fan of bringing back old-ass Patrick Stewart as Professor X. You've also heard talk of, like, Hugh Jackman wanting to reprise the role, and I don't want Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I'm sorry.
I don't either.
And this is more just, like, because I have very specific body headcanons. Like, Marvel doesn't get very into body diversity very often at all. And I love the fact that Wolverine is just short and squat. But Hugh Jackman's, like, fucking 6 foot and ripped.
Yeah.
So,
he's
like,
not stocky enough.
No, I want Someone big and burly.
My fan cast for Wolverine is Danny DeVito.
Oh my god, that's awful. No. Danny DeVito in a muscle suit. Like those shitty Halloween costumes.
Yeah, just one of the shitty ones with the foam muscles. The claws are made of plastic.
Just give him the reverse Chris Evans in Captain America: The First Avenger treatment. Honestly, the same treatment, really. Just muscles. Oh no, it is reverse, yeah. Because they made him all tiny and skinny. Just give him muscles. That's
Just CGI. I want to see a super buff Danny DeVito.
super buff CG muscle Danny DeVito.
That sounds amazing. I really, really want that now.
I really, really don't, but I don't want it in canon, but I do want to see it.
I would like to see it.
Maybe they make it, even though it would have to be animated, they make an episode of Marvel What If Danny DeVito was Wolverine?
Oh my god. I think, and this is gonna go a little bit over your head because I know you've never watched this show, but
I'm sure I haven't.
You haven't, but in my ideal world, MCU Wolverine would talk like the people from Letterkenny.
I haven't watched the show, but I have heard a little bit of it. I've seen a few clips.
Yeah.
That would be really entertaining. I don't know. I've always thought it was funny that none of the Marvel Canada characters have, like, Canadian accents.
Wolverine should definitely have, like, a rural Canadian accent for sure. Okay, that's all I have.
That's it for us in our normal content here on Comicsplaining. We have just a few things that we would like to do to wrap things up. First, we would like to ask that you follow us on our social media. Contact us. Give us some feedback. We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Comicsplaining. We have a Twitter, @Comicsplaining. And we have a Tumblr, also Comicsplaining.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly simple.
Yeah, we got the perfect one everywhere, so you never have to guess.
We are also up on YouTube where, at least for the moment, we are trying to get out at the same time a video version of every episode containing the clips that we talk about. Because while we do hope to post more of these clips on our social media, you can see it in real time as we talk if you just watch it again on YouTube.
It's pretty convenient, if you ask me. I
think so. Also, if you have any comments on construction methods in cities, or how signs are erected, or really anything else, you can send us an email, comicsplaining@gmail.com.
Yeah, and please subscribe and review us on whatever platform you're listening on. We're available on most podcatchers now. And also, if you know anyone who would like this podcast, please share, because, are doing our best to get it out there, but we need some help. So
yeah, we're not by any means any kind of big fandom personalities, so we don't really have the reach to get this out to people. So if you know anyone that you think would enjoy this, please, by all means, reach out to them. Let them know. Recommend us.
Yeah.
If you'd like to, don't forget to support us on Patreon at Comicsplaining.
Yeah, so we're going to be back next Wednesday with Thor again, and I think that's about it. I'm going to promo my webcomic again. It is on Tapas, and it's called Ephemeris, Ephemeris. I update on Mondays and Fridays with the new page. Please check it out. And also you can catch me playing D&D on twitch.com/droptune every Sunday at 7 EST. Check me out there, please.
And if anybody plays Marvel Puzzle Quest and is looking for an alliance, please join our Alliance 616. We are both on there, and we are always looking for new members. That's going to be it for us this week. Tune in next week, and we will be back with Thor. Bye!
Bye.